Hello, and today we are going to learn about how to complete the square. So have out your notes because this is what I need you to write down. So completing the square, if we have the form x squared plus bx, you can complete the square by adding the quantity b divided by 2 squared to complete the square. And now this is assuming that in this case, if we're looking at it in terms of the standard quadratic form of uh, ax squared plus bx plus c, that a is actually equal to 1 here. And either we don't have a c, or the c is on the other side, or we can get the c to the other side. So to complete the square, our square is then going to look like x squared plus bx plus b over 2 squared. And we're going to look at what that means. But the important thing to remember is whether b is positive or negative, it's going to be the exact same. So let's look at what this means in terms of a model standpoint. So say I have x squared plus 6. The blue is going to represent our x squared, and we're going to have these green bars represent our x's. So I'm going to try to make an actual square. So to do that, I have to move over all of these green bars. 1, 2, 3, and this is not going to be the prettiest of lined up, but that's okay. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing with my on the side either. So now I kind of have the start of this square, right? The start of the square. It's 3 by 3, but I have all of this missing blank area, right? I need to fill that in. So to do that, see how I had to divide my b by 2 because I'm going to be trying to make a square? That means I'm going to need to add, all of these singular 1 units to try to fill it in. So that's why what I'm doing is the number of b divided by 2 is going to be squared. So I divided that 6 by 2, which gave me 3, and then 3 squared is 9. So if I were to try to complete this square, I would have x squared plus 6x plus 9, because 9 is equal to 6, that's a 6, not a b, 6 divided by 2 squared. Okay? Let's try another one. So what is the value of c if x squared minus 24x plus c is a perfect square? So a perfect square means that I can break it down into the form of x plus a number squared. So I could break down, going back to here, of the x squared plus 6x plus 9, I can rewrite that as just x plus 3 squared. And that's the perfect square that we're trying to do with this. This is the perfect square trinomial we're trying to do. So let's try with this one. So what is the value of c if x squared minus 24x plus c is a perfect square? Well, I have to just take negative 24 divided by 2 and then square it. So that would be 12 squared, which is just 144. So x squared minus 24x plus 144 is a perfect square, and that would just be x minus 12 squared. So what would c be? C has to equal 144. Okay, let's try with the next one. What is the value of c to make that a perfect square? I just have to take 18 divided by 2 and then square that. So that'll be 9 squared, which will be equal to 81. So c would equal 81. And if I wanted to rewrite that kind of as that perfect square, that would be x plus 9 squared. Okay, I can rewrite x squared plus 18x plus 81 as just x plus 9 squared. Alright, not too bad. Let's try another one though. A little bit more complicated. So here I'm trying to, this is the application of it. I'm trying to solve this problem, but obviously if I were to try to get the negative 216 to the other side, it wouldn't be that helpful. That wouldn't really solve the problem because I don't know factors that multiply together to give me negative 216 and add up to 6. So let's try to do it using completing the square. So I need to find my c, right? My c is missing. I'm missing that c. So to find that, I have to take 6 divided by 2 and square that, and that'll give me 3 squared, which is equal to 9. So if I'm going to add 9 to the left side, I also have to add 9 to the right side. Because if you add 9 to both sides, you're really just adding 0. They kind of just cancel out. So now this gives me x plus 3 squared equals 225. And this is where it starts to get interesting, because if I'm going to be trying to solve this problem, then I'm going to have to take the square root. However, we know if we're taking a quantity squared and we're taking the square root of it, it's going to be a plus or minus. So this would be x plus 3 equals plus or minus 15. So we have two scenarios here. Just like we have whenever we have factors, we have like x plus 3 times x plus 4 equals 0. We'd set x plus 3 equal to 0 and x plus 4 equal to 0. Here we're going to have to set it as x plus 3 equals positive 15 and x plus 3 equals negative 15, because those are the two different scenarios I have here. So my answer would either be x equals 12, right? Subtract 3 from both sides. And then the other one is x equals negative 18. So my solutions are x equals negative 18 and x equals 12. Also, we would call that my zeros or my roots. Any of those would work. So let's try one more, and then I'm going to have you try. And if that was kind of confusing, maybe rewatch it. I think watching it over again might help you out. So what are the solutions of x squared minus 14x plus 16? Well, the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to get a and b. I'm trying to get that x squared and the x by itself. So that'll give me x squared minus 14x equals negative 16. And I'm going to do that just by subtracting 16 from both sides. So now I'm trying to complete my square. So to complete my square, I have to take b divided by 2 and square it. And add that to both sides. So I'm going to take negative 14 over 2 squared. And notice how this is negative 7 squared. That means that's what I'm going to have. I'm going to have this number inside my parentheses whenever I'm trying to get that perfect square. So that's just something, a good thing to look out for. Whatever that is, whatever b divided by 2 is going to be what's inside your radical. So, or inside your squared quantity. So that would give me 49 needs to be added to both sides. So I'd have x squared minus 14x plus 49, because that's negative 7 squared, equals negative 16 plus 49. And I can kind of simplify that down just to 33. Now, in terms of this side over here, like I said earlier, we're trying to make that perfect square, trinomial, right? So this would be x minus 7, again, just what b divided by 2 is, squared. So now what I have to do is, to solve for that, I have to take the square root of both sides. So that gives me x minus 7 equals plus or minus the square root of 33. And I'm going to get a decimal answer for this, guys, but you don't want to do it yet. You don't want to round until your very last step. So that means that either x minus 7 equals that positive square root of 33, or x minus 7 equals the negative square root of 33. Okay, so from here, I add 7 to both sides. So that would be x equals 7 plus square root of 33. Or the other one, or sorry, 7 minus square root of 33, because it has that negative sign inside. 7 minus square root of 33. And this other side, I add 7 to both sides. And that'll give me x plus 7. Or sorry, x equals 7 plus the square root of 33. There we go. So now this is where I'm going to put in my calculator. I'm going to put 7 plus the square root of 33. And that'll give me approximately, x is about 12.74. If I subtract 33 from it, that'll give me about 1.26 or 1.255, which I'm just going to round to 1.26. So that would be our two solutions. Those would be our two roots. That would be where they both cross the x-intercept. They're going to cross at 12.74 and 1.26. So in this previous example, we could kind of see we'd probably be able to do that by ourselves, right? If we really wanted to, we could solve the problem and get 12 and negative 18. However, that's going to be kind of harder for us to do, right? I mean, I don't know the factors of negative 216 off the top of my head, but you could figure it out with a calculator. However, with this next one, we definitely needed to complete the square, because if we hadn't completed the square there, we wouldn't have been able to do it. Okay, so real quick before you try these two out, tomorrow we're going to be dealing with when a is greater than 1, and we're also going to be dealing with a little bit more of these problems. So make sure if you have any questions or anything that you're still confused on, or maybe some problems you'd like to see more of, right? So say you had a harder time with this problem right here, make sure you write that down so that way we can go over more of those tomorrow. So what I want you to do now is try to pause the video and see what you got for these two. When you're done, come back to check to see if you're right. Okay, so we should have gotten that the solutions here were negative 17 and 19, and for this one we should have gotten negative 5 and 7. And again, I know what you're saying, you could probably do these ones without completing the square, but we're going to have some harder ones in there as well. So let's go over this first one. If you got these both right, go ahead, stop the video here. If not, then pause the video and we'll get back to it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to try to complete the square. So I'm going to say g squared minus 2g plus, and remember I'm going to do negative 2 divided by 2 squared. So that'd be negative 1 squared. So that negative 1 is what goes in my parentheses when I'm squaring it. So that means I have to add 1 to both sides. From there, that'll give me g plus 1, or sorry, g minus 1, g minus 1 squared equals 325. And then I have to take the square root of that. So the square root of 325 is equal to about negative 18.03. And I'm actually going to make this a little bit harder. So it'll be g minus 1 equals plus or minus 18.03. I'm going to get more precise than those answers that they have there. So that means either g minus 1 equals that positive 18.03, or g minus 1 equals negative 18.03. So g equals either 19.03 or g equals that negative 17.03. So if we want to be more accurate, technically we should have those 0.03s in there. So there you go. That's the first one. Next one. Let's see if I can. Okay. Just got to do the giant screen erase here. Okay, and this one you probably said, hey, I don't even need to complete the square there. I agree, you could probably just figure out the things, but I'm going to show you how to do it with completing the square as well. So what you would do is w squared minus 2w equals 35. And then I would complete the square by adding 2, I don't know what that is, 2, negative 2 divided by 2 over squared, which would give us negative 1 squared. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So g squared minus 2w plus 1 equals 36, because I added 1 to both sides. So that'd be w minus 1 squared equals 36. So to get w plus 1 by itself, I have to take the square root of both sides, which would just be w minus 1 equals plus or minus 6. So either w minus 1 equals 6 or w plus 1 equals 6. I don't know why I switched that. That's wrong. It would be w minus 1 equals 6 or, oh no. Okay, sorry about that. Or w minus 1 equals negative 6. So that would mean w equals 7 and w equals negative 5. Okay, and if we had a problem like this, for example, the one that we just did, I really wouldn't expect you to do completing the square there. I would expect you more to just try to figure out the factors that multiply together to give you negative 35 and add up to negative 2. But say we had negative 34 there, that problem becomes completely different, and you don't know how to do that without completing the square. Okay, so thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, let me know. Have a good day. Bye-bye.